which I know can send everyone to sleep, but we're going to go and join the forum in just a moment or so. But tell me, are you going straight to eyeballs with a website, or are you going to use partners to try and distribute this content?
So what we have is the channel is the channel. We've created an experience.
Come there. That's the destination,
right? However, Amazon Channels, as you know, is a nice way to.
I'm just going to have to stop you there because
okay.
we have to talk blockchain.
Okay,
Let's
no
go
problem.
join the forum.
Well, a very good morning, everybody, and welcome to day 2 of IBC 2018. We have a jam-packed day for you here at the forum, and I'm delighted to be your MC for today. So my name is Georgie Barrett. I'm a tech journalist and broadcaster. I present a UK TV show called The Gadget Show, which is brilliant fun. I get to travel around the world testing out the latest in consumer gadgets. And I also write for the likes of The Guardian, Tech City News and Marie Claire, sort of focusing about how technology is shaping us both socially and culturally. So I'm fascinated by our panels and keynotes and speakers that we have here today, because it's sort of straddling my two worlds, both the world of TV, but also the world of technology and disruption. So we've got 2 tracks going on here today at the forum. We've got the New Platforms, Innovators and Disruptors track, where we're going to hear from the likes of Netflix, Digital UK and Now TV. And our keynote programme is also going to continue here. We're going to hear from Adi Rawcliffe, who is Head of Diversity at ITV Commissioning, Neil Mohan, who is Chief Product Officer at YouTube, and David Abraham, who is CEO of Wonderhood Studios, but perhaps is most famous for being CEO of Channel 4 for 7 years. There's also another track going on in a different room. It's called Room E102. And I definitely urge you to check out what's going on there. It's the Audiences Engage, Influence and Grow track. And they've got the likes of Amazon Alexa and Microsoft speaking there. If you haven't already done so, please download the app, because, you know, this is the future and this is what we have to do now. If you just go into the App Store, type in IBC 2018, download it. It's got all the information of the programs, but also it allows you to interact with the sessions that are going on up here on stage. So you can rate them, you can ask the speakers questions. And on top of that, make sure you head over to Slido, because that we're able to do polls. So I know the next session are going to be 3 polls. So head into Slido and you just need to type in the code IBC 2018 and that should take you through to the appropriate session. Just a quick note, there are no fire alarms planned for today, so if you do hear a fire alarm, please make your way to the nearest exit. And make sure you get tweeting. We'd love to hear about what you think on social media. Our hashtag is hashtag IBC2018. I'm now delighted to welcome to the stage the Mayor of Amsterdam, who's going to give our opening address for day 2 at IBC. So please give a very warm welcome to Femke Halsema.
Good morning. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, welcome to Amsterdam. Which are the hottest media startups? What is the latest trend in augmented reality? Who is going to challenge Silicon Valley's big tech companies? Many of you have just got off a plane, or yesterday, and are eager to hear more about these issues. You're in a hurry. You and your companies are at the forefront of a swiftly transforming world of technology. In the 1950s, the average lifespan of a publicly listed company was 60 years. Now it's under 20 years. This is disruption. Old categories are becoming obsolete. The line between producer and consumer is no longer so clear. Even the difference between man and machine is blurring. In these rapidly changing times, we learn to appreciate continuity and tradition. One example of this is the strong and stable partnership between IBC and the city of Amsterdam. For decades, IBC has been bringing together tens of thousands of people from more than 170 countries to build networks, exchange ideas, and explore opportunities. This requires an environment that breathes innovation, creativity, and the spirit of international commerce. This city is striving to offer such an environment. That is a centuries-long tradition that will not be disrupted. I hope that tradition will help you to shape our future. And I would like to give a compliment to IBC in general and to its CEO, Michael Crimp, in particular. I don't know where he is at the moment. Ah, there you are. Tomorrow, IBC will sponsor the 4K charity run. This year, all the proceeds will benefit a local and global charity whose aim is to bring technological literacy to primary school students of disadvantaged communities. I think this is a fantastic initiative. Not only are you facilitating a great convention, but you are also giving back to our city. We thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you a fruitful convention and a pleasant stay here in Amsterdam. Thank you very much.
Hello. Thank you, Femke. Great to have you on the stage here this morning. My name is Kate Russell, and Georgie's already saved me some time. You could pretty much take her introduction, cross out Channel 5, add BBC, and that's what I am. I've been reporting on technology for the BBC since, well, about 12 years now. This session now, we're going to be talking about a business model that could change everything in our industry with one of the most disruptive technologies about today, or potentially disruptive technologies, blockchain. I hope you've all done a little homework, because we're not going to do a blockchain 101, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, now might be a good time to Google it. Before we start, though, I'd like to find out a little bit about you. So, as Georgie said, we're going to be doing some polls. So if you could pop along to sly.do in your browser, click on, once you've added the code IBC2018, click on the forum section, and it should come up with a poll. If it doesn't, there's 2 tabs at the top. Our first poll, let's find out who you are. What's your role within the industry? Are you an artist, a creative, production, distributor, broadcaster, engineer, finance, or you're just here for the networking drinks? I know that's possible. Let's have a look. The results should come through to us. Can we get the results slide up? Let's have. I can have a look at it on mine. I think we need to actually, if you on the Slido, if you enter what you are, and I think upstairs, if you enter what you are, it should then click over to the results. So the results of the poll. Not sure. We've got 56 votes in. Can we get the results up on the screen? 72 votes. I'm thrilled that you're all participating. It would be lovely for me to actually be able to see what the results of those are. Ah, here we are. Okay. Well, I can see what the results are from the moderator's screen. And that's just gone off. Great. Okay. So we've got 34% of you are engineers. You've got distributor, broadcaster, 28%. 9% of you are creatives. 3% production. 6% finance. 20% of you are here for the networking drinks. So I hope the Sundog bar has got plenty of tokens behind the bar. Okay, so I found a little about what you are. Now let's see what you think about the content that we're about to talk to you. Let's have our next poll. This is a high tech here, a direct link to the audience. So we'll flip the poll over. Now, the next poll is going to ask you what you think about artists' payments. And if I could have the results. Oh, we've got it there. So, do artists get fairly paid for their work? They are fairly paid. They're paid but not enough. They're paid but unfairly. They're often being diddled by creative accounting. And for our American friends in the audience, diddled means cheated, just so we're straight on that one. 49% of you, half of you think that they're fairly paid. Maybe that's because there's only 3% of you were artists and, and creatives. I don't know. I think there's a strong finance section that maybe will be voting for that top one. But 13% of you think, and this is we've got 124 votes in, so quite a few of you think that they're being diddled by creative accounting, and of course, everything in between. So, there we are, brilliant. I know something about you. And isn't that great? That is the power of live data, live audience data, direct feedback. And because I know that about you, I kind of know more than you do about how you're going to react to our next speaker. And that's the beauty of live audience feedback at source of distribution. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could all have that kind of feedback? Everybody, from creatives to distributors and everything in between, live audience feedback on how they're looking at your content, what they're doing with your content, what turns them on, what makes them turn off. So I'm just going to leave that thought hanging in the air for you while I ask you to put your hands together and welcome Kim Jackson, co-founder and president of entertainment at SinglularDTV.
Thank you, Kate. Such an honor to be following Kate and the mayor of Amsterdam. They didn't tell me until a couple of days ago, and I thought, oh, no pressure whatsoever. So fabulous to be here. Welcome, everybody, to the future. Are you ready to take a little dive there? A decentralized future that offers a peer-to-peer and a transparent exchange of value through a new evolution of technology called blockchain. I'm going to start this presentation with a little teaser of a feature documentary film titled Trust Machine, The Blockchain Story, that SinglularDTV has produced, directed by award-winning director Alex Winter and narrated by Rosario Dawson.
With the internet, we're not really the users, we're not really the customers, we're the product. But blockchain says it's another way, another way.
Blockchain, it's still an experiment in process.
In Africa, now we think about money in a very different way.
In this refugee camp, in this supermarket, all the transactions are authorized and recorded on a blockchain network.
I believe in the power of blockchain. Open source technology like blockchain. It's exactly what hackers...
Aha. Yeah, would you like me to start it over?
Blockchain.
Okay, let's see if we can do that. Apologies. Technology. It's great when it works. All right.
With the internet, we're not really the users, we're not really the customers, we're the product. But blockchain says it's another way, another way.
Blockchain, it's still an experiment in process.
In Africa, now we think about money in a very different way.
In this refugee camp, in this supermarket, all the transactions are authorized and recorded on a blockchain network.
I believe in the power of blockchain. Open source technology like blockchain is exactly what hackers had envisioned from the beginning.
Are you a hacker?
Yeah, I describe myself as a hacker.
Blockchain is scaring the shit out of some very powerful people.
Blockchain is just a scam.
A lot of the stuff is going to go away.
It doesn't serve any useful function.
A fraud. What we're trying to stop is simple. We're trying to stop the abuse of power.
Right. So let's see if the future holds that. So as a lot of us here know, I think we're about 30% engineers, blockchain is a public digital ledger of transactions. And so since we're not going to go too deeply into it, I will just review just a few little things. So as we all probably know, and maybe some who don't, blockchain is a system whereby someone submits a request and it is broadcast to a peer-to-peer network. And then a verification process happens on a network consisted of computers known as nodes. And this is where the decentralization takes place. So where there's a network, there is data, and where there is data, there is network, which is new and very unique to blockchain technology, unlike our centralized system that we have today. Then the transaction is verified. And a transaction, can be currency, as we're all popular right now aware of. It can also be contracts and records. And then a new blockchain block is added to the blockchain after that. And so this is a very, simple verification of that. SinglularDTV is focused on the transaction piece of the puzzle in the form of rights, revenue, and royalty. And that consists of music and film and television or books. And these will all be available on our DDP, our digital distribution portal, in 2019. So simply, what we're up to is creating a digital supply chain from creator to consumer with the dApps that we're creating at SinglularDTV. And we are aiming to empower creators to retain control of their IP. And this is a very important point, because in our industry right now, one of the major pain points for artists is the inability to track their IP all the way through to the distribution perspective. We're also developing an entertainment economy to create a peer-to-peer exchange. And so today, when you watch something, or you read something, or you listen to something, and you decide at the water cooler to let your colleagues know about it, who really benefits from that recommendation? Do you? Does the artist? Does the production company? Really, it's just whoever the distributor is at this particular moment in time. But imagine if you were a token holder for a particular film or television show or book that you love, and the value of that token is embedded with the IP and the rights, revenue, and royalty, and you, as a token holder, also get to benefit from the popularity of that. Also, more importantly, on the back end, through distribution, we are enabling a transparent financial reporting to all participants. So financiers who have a hard time understanding where their money went will be able to see on our artist portal ledger exactly how many transactions have taken place on the blockchain to be able to track the revenue, as well as the creator, the artist, the distributor, the production company. So with our digital distribution platform, everyone can participate. So if you're an individual artist, you're a distributor, you're a production company, and even a studio, the ability to track IP and revenue is where the power is. And we saw the writing on the walls at all of our industry conferences years ago, that the power retained in the ability to retain control of that IP all the way through to distribution. And so we have next up here is, I have a little video by Bill Borden, who is a producer in Hollywood.
The artists are the people that are going to benefit, because they will put their creative heart and soul into a project, and then if the project does well and there's benefit to the financer, there'll be benefit to all the participants through blockchain accounting. And for me, that's an amazing thing. And whether you're creating an album, that you're going to be a musician and put all your songs down, or you're going to be doing a movie, or you're going to be able to do some type of artwork that can go out and be sold. All these artists are going to have true accounting to their projects, which is amazing. And that's what Singular is offering all of us.
So even Hollywood producers find value, and this is somebody who is involved in a very lucrative film trilogy. And we happen to be working with him on a film called The Happy Worker, which we just wrapped production with. So we're very excited about that. So I'd like to introduce you now to our ecosystem of applications at SinglularDTV. So we have one currently in beta, and that is called Toke It. And this is where you onboard your content to the blockchain by tokenizing it. And you can also launch a campaign. We'll get into that in just a moment. The next important DApp we have is our DDP, yet to be named. It will be coming soon, so look out for that. And this is where it all happens. This is where distribution happens. So this is the place you will go to watch your films, watch your television series, listen to some music, or read a book. We also, embedded in that, have a really dynamic artist portal where there's a back-end interface so artists can be able to upload their content, but also in real time see what kind of transactions are taking place, in which regions, and how many are happening and at what volume. So this is important data that creators and consumers don't have right now, especially investors. And the fourth one is Rentalist. And this is really a production resource center. We're launching this regionally in New York right now, so production entities can find equipment and crew and other types of resources needed for production. And at the center of it all is the creator. And when we say creator, it could mean the individual artist, it could mean the production company, it could mean the sales agent, the distributor, and even the studio. So Tokit.io is live beta now, and a little bit about tokens. So what we do with Tokit, these are a place where tokens are created, which are programmable store of value on the blockchain. And these are utility tokens, again, embedded with the rights, revenue, and royalty of that said project or that said artist, and or an individual. We have a couple people who have actually tokenized themselves. So tokenize everything, tokenize anything, Tokit. So here's an example of one of the home pages and one of the artist pages of Tokit. This is an EDM artist, Grammatic, who launched his token at his concert in Switzerland last November. And his goal was to reach 7,500 ETH, and he did so in 48 hours. And here's a little bit, scroll of the page, so the artist has an opportunity to talk about themselves, what their goal is, how they're going to use the money, and a little bit about the project itself. Here's a little word from Grammatic.
No, you wouldn't believe how many times I get, when people donate to me, they donate not only to support the music, but they say, I'm donating because I support your philosophy. Yeah. I like what you're doing. I wish the entire industry was like this. Right. And it means a lot to me because sometimes they donate more than the album would actually cost, just because they really appreciate it, they have an option. Like people tell me, you have no idea, there was a time in my life I was really broke. I couldn't afford anything, barely food, and I could download your entire discography for free. And that saved my life. And then when I got back on my feet, I came back and I gave you this much money as a thank you for the time that I couldn't pay for your music, Yeah. And that, I think, is just something that I even learned from my fans that I didn't even know it's going to be perceived that way.
So Grammatic's a really dynamic artist, and when he learned about what we were up to at SinglularDTV, he really said, finally, he's been looking for this place. His fans and his interaction with his fans was already in a decentralized sharing manner, and so offering technology that allows his artists and him, his fans, and him as an artist, a place to actually have this meaningful interaction was really a no-brainer for him. And so at SinglularDTV, our goal and mission is to evolve the entertainment industry simply by the evolution of technology, which is we're all very familiar with, is called blockchain. So I'd like to just introduce a couple of the artists we are working with. As you saw, Bill Borden, we work with Grammatic. We have a Chinese artist named Puck. And also, we are working with a couple of other well-known artists, David Lynch and Steven Soderbergh. Will be releasing some of their films on our DDP later next year. And today, we're going to take this theoretical conversation into a practical one, and I would like to introduce to you the co-creator and producer, Maurice Schut of Space Spears, and he was here to tell us a little bit more about Tokit and the power of blockchain. First, here's a peek at a video of his project.
Space Base is about a young Scottish guy who's being abducted by 2 psychotic aliens. And he is there for a drinking competition in an intergalactic bar. He managed to actually win that drinking competition. This is actually the first feature we start working on. As filmmakers and as a group, we were already following the possibilities of a blockchain, and we bumped into SinglularDTV. We were already designing aliens, the prosthetics, all kind of stuff. So along the way, a lot of people got involved. A lot of paperwork when you start out working in the traditional way, and blockchain really keeps it easy. We raised 53%. In the meantime, we have been able to developing the film further along and start a lot of pre-production already.
So please help me welcome Maurice Schut. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Maurice?
Yes, I brought a little prop to a friend with me, my lucky token.
Somewhat worryingly, it's not the first time I've shared a stage with a fish. So anyway, that's an entirely other story. Thank you so much for joining us. Kim, we're going to go a deep dive into your technology and what it potentially offers. Maurice, first of all, can you sort of just talk to us really quickly about, why you chose, or what pushed you towards Tokit, and the fact that this is such an unusual concept as well.
Yes.
Just tell us a little bit about you first.
It brings us back last summer. We just shown a little bit of the live action movie. It's actually more than that. It's also a brand. And we came to the conclusion that we had to get the IPs, the rights management, the ownership into play. And we started looking around how we could use new technology for that. And we started looking into blockchain, how that would benefit us as filmmakers, how that would be structured. And while we were doing research regarding that, we actually found SinglularDTV along the way, and they already had the system in place. Because as creatives, you don't actually want to build the portals and the technology itself. You just want to be enabled to use it. Mm. And they were up and running, so that's how we bumped into each other and started using Tokit.
Perfect, perfect. Well, so you've met our panel. I have a lot of questions myself, but I really would like to pose your questions. Again, if we can use the Slido app, if you're up for that, as well as being able to pose your questions anonymously, if you like. I'm okay with that. You can also upvote the questions that have already been posed. So even if you don't have a question, pop along, vote up the questions that you want to hear, because we won't get a chance to answer all of your questions. So it'd be good to know that we're answering the ones that are the most important to the most of you. Okay. Kim, let's talk about the results of the poll, first of all. We saw only 3% artists in the audience, and over half of our audience felt that the artists are fairly paid. I do wonder if there were a higher percentage of artists who were probably still in bed after enjoying the networking too much last night, but I wonder if there were a higher proportion of artists in the audience that might have been a slightly different balance in that second poll. And I guess the blockchain, because it is this immutable sort of record of everything, even if, artists perhaps feel that they're not fairly paid, they're being diddled, shall we say, but maybe just, that would be a proof and a record that that's not the case, even if it isn't, right?
Sure. We've done some market research along the way, and it is very commonly thought that artists get paid. And certainly on the onset of a production, there is a line item payment for an artist. But on the back end, when you have distribution, is where the logjam really happens. And especially when there's an obvious hit. The amount of artists, and we hear this with music, probably more prevalent than we do with film and television, although you still hear those cases, there is the creative accounting that happens. And I have, Hollywood producer friends who have had undeniable successes, and they've had to literally go to court to prove that there was money because they received a creative accounting. So what blockchain does intrinsically is it alleviates the need for the intermediary. And so just basically taking the math and applying it to a business model that has such obfuscation. It just alleviates that. It becomes trustless, and everybody just gets to be transparent and play well together and allow for creators to benefit. And it's just a basic idea. And blockchain technology, decentralization, is at its purest form, and the idealistic form of it is to really provide a basic universal income. So that's where we come from, that's our mission, and it is important for people to realize that when it comes to distribution, which is why someone like Maurice realized, wow, I don't want to lose control of my IP and not know what's going on. So our applications aim to be able to create transparent accounting. So everyone is aware of how many transactions, when, and where.
Maurice, I mean, presumably you started, you mentioned that you were looking for blockchain. Was it because of this sort of feeling that you're not necessarily getting the full picture in terms of distribution when it comes to payments?
Our project is not along the way that far yet, but the basics need to be correct. And we found our solution in the blockchain by using that. Because along the way, it will take another year maybe before we are going to use all those other applications. And when we are going to release the film, and when all those numbers get in play and all the rights management. So this is preparing for the future.
Yeah.
So it's not about now losing it, but preparing for it.
I'll be honest with you, when Adam emailed me and asked me to chair this session, I saw the word blockchain in the subject header and I was like, oh, God. Because it does, it has
It's a buzzword. I'm not sure we'll be using it that much in the future. We don't talk about JavaScript, and we use it every moment of our lives. So I don't know. That's my theory, is pretty soon we'll just be talking about the what versus what's under the hood. But
yeah, I mean, it's a good point, actually, because we use JavaScript. We used to talk about JavaScript, and now we don't. And I guess there is a feeling among some commentators in the technology realm that blockchain, some will say blockchain's a bubble, some will say blockchain hasn't really found its place yet. There's a lot of evident volatility around blockchain if you look at the cryptocurrency kind of scene. So do you feel like blockchain has found its place yet?
I think it's still searching. I think that applications have to emerge and people have to start interacting with it in a meaningful way. I think cryptocurrency is one application, and that's the one that got all of our attention. And now, as we see, if you're paying attention to the market, it's sort of evening out, and it's probably about time, because now developers and engineers can start to really get to work to see how this blockchain can really make a difference. And I think we're in very early days. I always say we're in dial-up days. I mean, we're very, very early days, and it's exciting. I really anticipate in 2019 and 20 more and more applications becoming available so that we can actually start interacting in a different way than with currency. It's early days.
Maurice, from your perspective, actually, using the platforms or using the elements that you've used already, how was the experience technically? If somebody has got very little technical ability, are they going to struggle?
Yes and no. It is new technology. It is you have to have at least the basic information already, how it works and what you're exactly doing. But from that point on, it's very easy to use. And it took, I think it really happens very quickly for us, the whole process.
And you've raised some money already on I'm going to call it crowdfunding. I mean, when we looked at the platform in your presentation, it looks like any of the platforms that we've seen, like Kickstarter, Indiegogo. It's a very familiar looking interface. Can we draw any kind of comparisons with crowdfunding as we know and understand it today for that element of your platform?
Ideally, globally, it will be able to be used that way. Currently, it's only able to be used as a crowdfunding platform in certain areas, like where Maurice is from, so he was able to take advantage of that aspect of it.
And that's down to regulation, right?
It's down to regulation. And so the token is a utility token, and one aspect of it ideally would be the revenue piece. And so here In the Netherlands, you were able to you still have to KYC, but you were able to raise some funds for your.
We were able to raise funds for the film itself, and yeah, it is, once again, it's new technology, so you have to work with everybody's finding their placement or how they have to deal with it, and it's including the regulators in this case.
Now, one of the things, I mean, I have experience personally with creative projects, crowdfunding creative projects through Kickstarter. And one of the great things is the ability to sort of gather a tribe around you, right? I mean, I actually know companies who put loss leader products on crowdfunding platforms because of that community that builds around a product. Did you find that sort of, or is that one of the potential benefits of the future? Maybe it's a young platform now, but do you see that ability to build a tribe around your content of supporters being an intrinsic part of that section of the tech?
I think this is basically one of the reasons why we embraced it. We are a very open production itself. I'm bringing a prop here on stage. I'm not hiding it. We are taking everybody, all the fans we have on the social media, and along for the ride. They get an interesting look behind the scenes, both in how we are creating a sci-fi universe, world, prosthetics, all kind of things. But I get also on a regular basis from fellow filmmakers how we are using this, as in the technology itself. So we are very open as a production-wise and talking about it. And along the way, we are building a bigger audience and enabling them also to join us on this.
The main big difference is they are token holders. And so that token kept on the chain through distribution keeps that audience with you the entire time. Versus other crowdfunding sites now, once you leave that site, you've lost connection with that. And it's a big effort for you to re-engage them or to keep them engaged. And so, again, these are centralized systems. And we are creating a decentralized system where it is actually all connected. And I really believe that initially the internet was meant to connect us, and in some ways it has, but in a lot of ways it's very, very troubling because it's disconnected all of us with these siloed, centralized systems. But with the decentralized, you can create an ecosystem where everything is connected. So the audience that he has now will be the audience at the end who will be recommending it to friends and who will be interacting with you live on your page and be able to have a dialogue with you. So it's all kept in the same ecosystem.
Well, so Tim Berners-Lee did actually say fairly recently that blockchain has the potential to turn the World Wide Web back into what he intended, you know, with this sort of decentralized, unfiltered, unfettered access to information. You know, we all here now understand, I think, that data is a massive part of broadcast and entertainment. You know, it is the oil that powers our AI dreams. It is the ability to predict and forecast what audiences are going to want and enjoy. And as well as this sort of transparent accounting process that the tokens offer through the blockchain. That's a big part, isn't it? Is this access to information about how your audience are using your content?
Sure. I mean, currently, you don't have any relationship with the audience when you have your content on a particular platform. That dialogue is between the distributor and that audience. And so there's thousands of titles. And so if one is performing, you know, you wonder, well, are they paying attention to that? Are they paying attention to my child? And are they continuing to promote it? Or have they moved on to the other one? And likely they've moved on. And so you have no control over continuing to promote that in a particular, you know, region because you're getting, you know, feedback there, or, you know, you sort of have no idea what your fan base likes. And, you know, there's one analogy we always make is how many times have you loved a show or a series and for whatever reason the powers that be decided they're going to cancel it, but this huge fan base is saying, no, 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 we want it, we would watch it. And imagine if you're a token holder, you're funding this, so you get to say, I mean, there's a lot more power in the peer-to-peer value exchange, because if the audience wants it and the creators are willing to do it, then why not? But right now, there is an intermediary who's literally the gatekeeper in charge of that relationship.
I mean, presumably you as a creator would find that kind of information about your audience invaluable. What would you do with it? How could you further use it?
Well, it opens up all kinds of ways. I mean, it's how can you use it? Yeah, you can see where in the world people are watching your content, and then you can more create content for them especially, or change it a little bit. I mean, it's only the tip of the iceberg for me personally, because we tokenized our content, our brand at the moment, and we are just waiting on the moment when we are enabled to use all the data and the DDP that is Singular is going to release. That's when the fun starts for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are waiting on that data, but also it's exciting because we have never got that data. So it's like, bring it. Let's see what's happening.
Bring it. Before I ask this next question, quick show of hands. Do we have anyone from Netflix or Spotify in the audience? Okay, good, because this could have been awkward. Kim, are you basically trying to put the likes of the big streaming services like Netflix and Spotify out of business with this?
Absolutely not. I think there's room in the decentralized blockchain world for everybody, and I think that our technology can be utilized by big distributors and studios for their accounting purposes, because I'm imagining, and I hear about these at conferences, that the back-end accounting process is an absolute inefficient nightmare and very costly. And so, you know, just by utilizing the back-end piece of what we're doing will create so much more efficiency in the accounting and reporting, which will save a company like Netflix or Spotify or Amazon millions of dollars. So listen, in the decentralized blockchain world, there is room for everyone. And with our DDP portal, anyone can have a channel. A distribution company can have a channel, a production company can have a channel, HBO could have a channel. This is a non-exclusive platform. Individual artists can have a platform, can have a channel. So there is room for everyone.
And that's interesting in a world where more and more artists are actually taking to streaming platforms like YouTube, Twitch, to have that direct kind of control over artistic control, creative control over their content. That's going to potentially be even more interesting. Okay, over to you. I know we've got some questions been coming in. So I'm going to ask the top-rated one. Is your DDP platform intended to be a distribution platform to consumers, or is it a distribution to platforms like Netflix, YouTube, broadcasters? We kind of answered that in the last question, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it is going to be a platform in its own right, and presumably, if you get sort of very successful, are you going to be offering, you know, could huge companies like Netflix, for example, you know, sort of license the architecture to lie underneath their existing platform?
We're open to conversations.
I'm sure you are. Okay, next question. What happens if a European user wants to use her right to delete her transactions from the blockchain? GDPR and blockchain, question mark. That's a very good point. Any thoughts on that?
The question is about, once you put it up there, deleting it?
Yeah, so basically one of the elements of GDPR is the right to have content removed.
Right.
And obviously, presumably, once it's in a blockchain, there is no longer the opportunity to take it back.
Right.
So how is that going to impact?
Right, well, I would imagine that in the current system, you'd want to remove something because you want to change the data for some particular reason, change your mind. I mean, that's what blockchain is here for. Is it's a trustless, immutable system, ledger. I got married on the blockchain. I was one of the first people, so we have a hash that has our vows on it. And I imagine if I wanted to change that, I'd have to go back in and create a new vow or a new contract. It's a smart contract system. So it's going to be there, but you can go in and add to or, you know, change the said contract system.
We're only a few months into GDPR now, and I think a lot of these, you know, not just for this industry, but that is a question that is going to have to be tested in the courts at some point down the line. You know, it's a very interesting aspect of the technology. Okay, next question then. Is this a direct-to-consumer model, cutting out the traditional distributors and platforms? How will it manage major production, finances, and distribution? Again, we kind of answered that, I think, didn't we? It can be either. Would you agree?
Yes, and I think on the finance side, you know, I've been an independent producer, worked for studios for, you know, nearly 20 years, and especially in the independent arena, you rarely get to go to the same funding source twice. And why is that? Because we all know that return on investment for a film is as likely as putting all your money on red in Vegas and hoping to win. So, you know, it's not the best investment. People do it for other types of reasons, and we're very grateful for all of those people. But the idea that, you know, you'd have an opportunity to track that revenue in real time and have a ledger that is transparent allows for that said investor or slate of investors to be able to at least have the information available to them. Today, it's nearly impossible to get that information. Studios work a little bit differently, as we're aware, but we really believe that the opportunity to have a transparent accounting system is going to really open up a new area of financing for entertainment.
At a basic level, how does the artist actually get paid? Is that sort of worked out yet? I mean, how you know, you've got this, you're an artist, you've got a channel on your platform, you've got content out there, it's being watched. How's that monetized? How is that paid back to you?
So you can, just like you watch anything you watch now on any sort of OTT device, you can pay with your credit card or whatever type of fiat you have. So this isn't going to be, you know, crypto agnostic. You can pay with whatever you'd like. Crypto's obviously available. We will have, we're basically building this on Ethereum, so this is ETH based. But if you have, you know, USD or euros, you know, that's how the artist will get paid. And so then the transactions on the other side will then be transferred into fiat and paid out to the artist's wallets. So just like you have an email address, you will have a wallet address, right? So one of the things I always like to say, you know, sort of as an analogy to this technology, just like the internet brought us instantaneous communication via an address called an email, blockchain is going to bring us an instantaneous value exchange by having a wallet address. And so the artist will have a wallet, you know, the transactions on the side will be sent there, and they'll be able to take that and...
What's to say, so there's a degree of protection here. What's to stop somebody taking something off the blockchain? You know, you know, does it prevent piracy? Presumably it doesn't have any additional encryption or DRM than existing models. Does it protect against piracy?
I think it doesn't protect against bad actors, as we've been seeing with different sorts of things happening right now with blockchain technology. I mean, humans are humans, and they're going to act the way they do for centuries. So I don't think a technology is going to change human behavior. However, at least you'll be able to track where that piracy is happening. And you'll be able to know that the piracy is happening and where and when, because there will be, you know, smart contract systems tracking that IP. And so at least you'll be able to track the fact that it's happening, and perhaps someone will develop some sort of application to take that information and make these folks accountable.
Monetizing piracy, there you go. There's a gap in the market for that.
I'm sure there is. That's not our mission, but you're welcome. Okay, no.
It is interesting. I mean, I was speaking actually to Spencer Stevens in the Cybersecurity Forum yesterday, and he was asking about, you know, is it possible to take something once you've tokenized it? You know, can somebody take that off the blockchain?
By, you know, reprogramming your smart contract system and changing the agreement.
So like any other hacking, kind of, it requires a level of determination.
Not my level of expertise,
yeah,
so yeah. Not the best question for me. I'm sure some of the engineers in the audience might be better
If anybody does, feel free to comment as well here if you have the answer to that question. You know, talking of a blockchain is basically only as good as the content that goes into it, right? So yes, it's an immutable record of you know, every part of the transaction. But if you put bad data in, you know, it's still only as good as the data. We call it garbage in, garbage out, right, in software programming. What's to stop the blockchain from being polluted? You know, the well to be polluted with bad content?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
And I suppose that again is like JavaScript. You know, we know that JavaScript is not the most secure platform in the world, but we've all got it. Most of us. Rich hasn't got it running on his computer, but most of us still have JavaScript applications running. Maurice, obviously the risk, you know, there are risks involved. It's a new technology. The risks are obviously worth it to you, though. Why is that?
Always keen to use new technology, pioneering, see what's around the corner. Because you never know what's going to happen next. I mean, this is, and for us, for Space Bears, it was the right time, right moment to start using it. It is a weird project, and it is a production we have been working on already, and still working on it, and just going along the line. So, it was just forced marriage, as it was the right moment. So it's just embrace it, see what's going to happen, and learn from it. Because as a creative from the sideline, you hear about it, but you want to know how it works. And the only way how you start finding that out is by bumping into somebody or another filmmaker that is using it. And that didn't happen, so we decided to do that.
And what's interesting about you as well, they already have a beer, right? Maurice already has their own branded Space Bears beer. I had a bottle last night. It's very tasty wheat beer. You know, this merchandising, I think for creators these days, content creators, because the revenue streams are, you know, so difficult to earn, you know, unless you're sort of at the very top of your game, it's difficult to earn a living that's worth a note. And so the ancillary products that go alongside your creative IP become an essential part of the mix to making it a profitable enterprise, right?
Yes.
And so everything can go on the blockchain.
Yeah.
All of your merchandising, and I guess that's a key part.
That's what I explained earlier. We tokenized our brand. We didn't just say, okay, we're going to do only this film. No, we decided the whole thing. So that's including the merchandise and all kinds.
A question from the audience. From Anonymous, so I don't know how you're going to follow through on the answer to this. How do I get to be an extra in Space Bears movie?
Well, follow us on social media, and by the time it comes, we will call out for the extras. And it really depends if you want to be an extra in the Earth bar or the Alien bar, because that's where the fun starts.
How much fun is that? Okay, well, listen, we've got sort of 9 minutes left. What I'd like to do, we may get back to some more of your questions, but I'd like to actually revisit the poll section of the Slido app, if you wouldn't mind logging onto that again. And let's have revisit one of the questions that I asked you at the beginning about artist payment, and see what your feelings are regards this technology, if that's changed your opinion at all. So the questions, IP tracking. If IP tracking and distribution was tokenized, would artists be more fairly paid? It's probably a part of a mix, but there would still be problems. Yes, it would make the process fair. The fiddlers would still find a way to fiddle. Somebody's changed that from diddlers. Maybe that was an automatic predictive texting. Anyway, I don't see this system working at all. So that is a big part, you know, the top of that. Yes, start of the mix, you know, that's the top answer there. A part of the mix, there's still going to be problems. Responses to that? I mean, I'd say that's probably fair, given even, you know there's still problems to be ironed out with blockchain as a technology.
Well, certainly. I mean, it's adoption has to happen, first of all, and that's going to take many, many years. I mean, there's a lot of you who are too young to remember, the internet boom that happened in the 90s. But, you know, there was a time when we didn't communicate with email and we didn't communicate on the internet. And so, you know, it took some time to, you know, to adopt it. And that's where we are with blockchain. So, you know, it's going to take some time. I mean, like, our applications are in beta. And we always encourage people, if you're curious, get a wallet and start getting out there and engaging with the applications that are starting to emerge. And the film that we've produced, a documentary film, Trust Machine, really examines some of the real cases that around the globe are being utilized, everything from refugee tracking to energy. And there's some really amazing applications that are being built. Our partners at Consensus are leading with so many amazing endeavors. And so, you know, it is early days, and we're not coming out of the gate selling anything or making any claims. We are really testing and educating and observing as well. And it's a really exciting time, and there's amazing potential here. And it is going to require everyone's participation.
So that, I mean, that's over half of the audience there. And in fact, 25% of the audience believe that this would make the process fair. So, you know, it's interesting. There's a lot of confidence in the audience for the blockchain, which I'm surprised because so many of you are engineers. It does surprise me somewhat. A quick show of hands. How many of you think that blockchain really hasn't, agree with me, that blockchain really hasn't found its place yet? You know, it's an important technology, but it's not found what it's supposed to do yet. Yeah, so most of us, I think we're all in pretty much agreement, and that's where maybe there would still be problems comes into it. Okay, we've got 5 minutes left. Let's take a few more of your questions then. Is there a tipping point between blockchain and government-backed currency? Not sure. I guess by that you mean, you know, will it require the government to legitimize cryptocurrency in order for blockchain to become, you know, an established part of the ecosystem? I'm not sure if I've understood that question correctly, but, you know, we can make an assumption that that's the correct interpretation of that question. So I guess the question more simplified would be, do we need regulation to legitimize? You know, you've said already that the crowdfunding part of your tool is not fully launched yet, mainly because of regulatory issues by region. Do you think that a technology like blockchain needs to be legitimized with regulation in order for it to be fully accepted into the world of, I don't want to say ordinary people, but non-techie people? Should we just say non-techie people? What do you think?
It's a logical step, absolutely. We're focused on tokenomics and token utility, which doesn't really have much to do with just straight up currency. So I think that it makes logical sense. And I think, you know, it would make things a lot easier for general public to get involved.
Yeah, okay. Last question from the audience then, and the top voted one currently is, one of the complaints from artists is the cost put onto budgets for costs like marketing. Do complete budgets need to be on the blockchain for full transparency? So again, you know, that's true. I mean, an artist may say, well, look, I've had 100,000 people watch that. Surely I should have earned some more money. But then the money that is spent on marketing is, particularly in entertainment, in the movie industry, is phenomenal. So does that all become part of the blockchain?
Well, it should, and there is no magic with blockchain all of a sudden going to make your film or your piece of art, your IP, you know, successful. Marketing is marketing, and it's going to be definitely necessary and required. I think that one of the parts of the creative accounting we're talking about is that chargeback of administrative and marketing costs, which you have nothing to do with. So if you're in charge of your own IP and you are in charge of that, that tracking and that budget, for our application, there will be a menu where if you decide you want to control and be a part of the marketing of your particular piece of content, you can engage with a third-party marketing firm to do that, and or you might want to outsource that. I mean, no one is an expert at all of that stuff.
So essentially, it's a platform for you to use in the way that you want to use it.
Sure. And I think that you know, marketing is a very, very important part of the process. And you guys have done a phenomenal job, and they get it. And so you still need to put yourself out there and market and find that crowd and that audience that embraces you, and also reach out. And you're doing amazing stuff. I mean, they're being very innovative. Space, they literally have space beer.
Yeah,
they have their merchandise. And
we're going to have to wrap up. 2 minutes left. Maurice, very quickly, what's next for your movie? Where can people follow you if they want to find out about this intergalactic drinking competition? Can I just say, aliens versus Scottish? No competition.
No competition. On social media, Twitter and Instagram at Space Bears Movie. And we are still developing along the way. We took the Token campaign was actually a test drive for us. We never expected it to be so useful, successful also for us. And we are also still finalizing the financial part of the film, but we expect to actually start filming next year.
Perfect. And Kim, casting your mind forwards 20 years, and let's just put that time frame into perspective. 20 years ago, we didn't have any streaming services. There were no mobiles, no smartphones. People used to flip through the channels on a TV remote by one. Where do you see the landscape of distribution and rights payments 20 years from now?
I think that if you're smart, you get the Space Bears token, because if all of us would have bought the Star Wars token in the 70s, be a whole new conversation right now, wouldn't it? So,
in a very different location, I feel, as well.
That's right.
Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you so much for your questions as well. There's no question that this is a very new technology, and there are a lot of lessons to be learned for the blockchain generally, and in regards to this platform as well. That goes just the same. It may yet burst, as many, the blockchain bubble may burst, as many more pessimistic commentators would have you believe. The one thing that this is certain is there are opportunities here. So I hope, whether you are a creator, a distributor, an engineer, or you're just here for the networking drinks, I hope we've whet your appetite enough to find out more. Kim's going to be here all weekend, so you can hook up with her and find a meeting. Follow at Space Bears Movie on Twitter for more from that crazy fish. Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've got to run now because I'm doing the audience track in like 15 minutes. So enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you to Kim and Maurice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
From the IBC